Alrighty, guys, thanks for joining me. This is your host, ID Jester. It is time for our first character deep dive as we dive into one of the characters, talk about him, talk about the way I predict he should play, and how his abilities and cards will affect the party, his enemies, and what he can do in the game. So hopefully you guys enjoy this. If you did, leave us a thumbs up. Smash that like button, as Rough Swordsman likes to say. So let's smash that like button. Leave a comment down below what you think about the character, what you think he's going to play like. If this is somebody that you think you're going to add to your party and why you think that. So let's get into it. So we're talking about Grayrock, everyone's favorite dwarven cleric, Grayrock. And you can see over there on the right-hand side, he is built by having 2 white sets and 1 yellow set, which we'll talk about in a little bit. His main power is when Grayrock gathers fate, one other hero gains 1 fate as well. And his action is deal 1 white damage to 1 enemy. And another hero can heal 1 life point. So notice it does say another hero, so he cannot heal himself with this ability, but he can heal his allies. So if you remember from our previous episodes, one of the actions that you can do as a player is you can turn in a card to gather fate for that card. And also remember that at the start of your turn, your hero gains fate. Now these are 2 different and completely different actions, even though you're still getting fate. One is a gathering fate action, which you're losing a card to do, and then there's just the ability of a character. Every time they activate, it's, fate represents the character's will, their desire, their survivability, their essence, all of that built into the fate. Gathering fate is basically substituting one thing and sucking the life force or the energy or whatever out of it so you can power up and do something else with that. So gathering fate is different than a hero gaining a fate, which each hero gains a fate every time they activate. Then you have 2 actions that you can do during a turn. One of the actions that you can do is gather fate. You can obviously do this multiple times. You can do it every time you do an action if you want. So, his ability to give other heroes out there fate. Fate is basically the resource in the game that the players are going to have to manage. They're going to have to manage their cards. They're going to have to manage their fate. And they're going to have to manage their characters' abilities and actions. All this is going to be kind of interweaved and intertwined with one another. If you have great cards in your hand, but you don't have any fate to bring them in, it's not going to do you any good. If you have tons of fate, but you don't have any cards in your hand, it's not going to do you very good. So it's going to be kind of a management where you have to manage your character's fate along with his cards, along with his abilities, because you only get to do 2 actions every turn. If you spend 2 actions gaining fate, that means you're not damaging any of the enemies, you're not helping your allies, you're not putting cards in play for yourself. So you have to really analyze and manage your fate. So Grayrock's ability, right off the bat, to give every time that he gathers fate, he's able to give fate to someone else. That is probably already broken in the game. To be honest, I think it's broken. I think he's gonna be like one of these characters after 20 characters are built, somebody in the group is going to be like, oh, somebody should take Grayrock because he's got such a good ability. So we'll see. We'll see, right? But that just seems really good and really broken. So let's look at some of the cards that's going to make him play and do things differently. And the main card that goes along with his special ability, of course, being a cleric, is going to be his prayer card. He actually has 3 of these in his own personal deck. You can see his name down there in the bottom. Each character is going to have a set of 18 cards just for themselves, which are going to make them play differently than other characters as well. But he has 3 of these prayer cards, and these fit in perfectly right in with his special ability. This card can only be played as a Gather Fate card, unlike, say, something like, let's just look at, say, Protection from Evil. So Protection from Evil, you can actually cast this as a spell, and it does its own special thing, or you can turn it in, and you can gather 2 fate on this card. If you turn this card in, you can gather fate, you can gather 2 fate on it. Or you can cast a spell. So this is a multi-purpose card. Prayer is one of the unique cards in the game already, because it is the only card so far in the game that is single purpose, and that is you can only gather fate with it. And this again fits right in with his special ability, because when he gathers fate, when he gathers fate, he's going to give fate to one of his other one of the other players as well. So he has 3 of these prayer cards, and you can see he's going to gain 3 white fate. Boom, 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 boom. 3 white fate. When this card can only be used to gather fate, and another special ability, you might think, oh, okay, well, once he uses these cards, well, he's sunk. He's done for. Nope. He can always pray, because when 2 prayers are in his discard pile, you shuffle his discard pile back into his draw pile. So he's never going to run out of being able to pray. Well, I mean, it makes sense. He's a cleric. He should be able to pray for divine blessings anytime he wants. And use this card to be able to energize himself to get lots of fate, so that he can energize his teammates by his special ability. So, he's got some very unique and interesting things already in his deck. Let's move on and talk about some of the other things. So, we've showed this in the previous episode. He has Celestial Light, which is a yellow card. And of course, it would only cost 1 yellow to cast this, or you could turn this in for yellow fate, which again still activates his special ability. So if he turned this in for fate, he would get 2 yellow fate, and one of his allies would also get a fate of the color of their choice. You can choose a hero, and they can change any number of fate color into a different color. So again, if you had hero that turned in a bunch of green cards and then were unlucky and they drew a bunch of red cards and they didn't have any green cards in their hand, and since you only gather 1, or you only gain 1 hero fate a turn, it could take you quite a few turns to get enough fate to be able to start casting your red powers. So he's going to be able to, with this special card, be able to help one of the other players that they call it something in Magic the Gathering. It's called I forget what it's called, but it's like running a river or something like that, where you're just getting nothing but the wrong color cards in your deck, and you don't have the right lands out to play those cards. So this card will actually help him be able to help anyone. And notice it says choose a hero. So he can choose himself, he can choose one of his allies, whatever, to be able to help out somebody that's having problems with the amount of fate. And I'm not trying to give away too much, but there are enemies and monsters out there that might change the fate that you have in front of you. That makes it completely worthless, because if Grayrock had blue and black fate out in front of him, he wouldn't be able to activate any of his cards. So being able to change color of fate seems like a pretty good idea. All right, moving on. We looked at this one previously as well, Protection from Evil. Obviously, this is situational and, depends on what's going on at the time. There is several of these in his deck, but it could be a really good get on dodge card for all of himself and his allies, especially depending on which of the Dark Lords are going up against. If, say, you're going up against Zarkin, who does black damage once you end up in the boss's lair. And you might be afraid. Oops. We'll get to you in a minute. What the hell are you doing? You might be afraid to play this too early, because you might want to hold on to it to the end when you're facing off against the big bad boss at the end of the adventure. But remember, all the way back at the first card we looked at, no, go away. Why, these are such a pain in the ass. Remember his number 1 card? Prayer, which all he has to do is cast 2 of those, and then he gets his deck reshuffled into his deck. So you don't have to worry about holding on to those spells to the very last moment to get them out to fight the boss. If you had encounter with several black fated monsters, obviously being able to prevent any damage from those could be the turn, being able to turn the tide of battle. All right, I'm going to minimize the rest of those as we look at some of his other ones. He has another yellow special ability called Spiritual Aura. So this one is a yellow ability, so obviously it'll cost 1 yellow fate to put in play. If he uses this to gather fate, he will gather 2 yellow fate, and of course, because of his special ability, give one of the other allies a fate as well. But this card has a usability. If you watched our previous episode, cards that go into play in front of you that have a usability do not take an action. So you can only use a card once, and when the end of the round happens, then all of the usabilities come back into play. So this is a usability. You can use 1 white fate to pay for a yellow fated card, which again kind of fits in with his whole prayer thing, because he's going to be getting a whole bunch of white cards. I'm sorry, he's going to be getting a whole bunch of white fate from his prayer. He'll be getting 3 white every time he casts one of these. So he will probably have a lot of white fate. And now, with the Spiritual Aura out, he'll be able to use some of that white fate on his yellow cards. So it makes him very able to do lots of different things within his one little deck. We looked at this one earlier, or in a previous episode, I should say. So if you haven't been following along, he also has bandages, and it has a usability as well. So when he plays this, it's going to cost him 1 fate to put it into play. He can give this to one of his allies. He can give it to himself. But every time that ally heals, they will heal 1 extra life point. So doesn't sound like a lot, but if you're healing for 2 points as opposed to 1, or you're healing for 4 points as opposed to 3, or you're healing for 8 points as opposed to 7, those extra points always add up to something good. And it only costs them 1 fate to put it into play, and of course an action. But every time somebody is able to heal, they can use this card once around to get an extra healing. Let's see, what else does he have? We looked at these. He's got some traveling supplies. This is a 2 yellow fate card. He could turn this in for 3 yellow fate if he was to gather fate on this card. But it's got a super, super good power. Action. Draw a card and gather 1 fate. So this is super good for 2 reasons. Number 1, well, first of all, it's an action. So it would take an action to do it. But it allows him to draw a card and gather. Notice it does say gather a fate. So that means it actually activates his special power, which will allow him to, when he uses this action, he'll get a fate, he'll get a card, and he will give one of his allies 1 fate as well. This will go out in front of him, and then he'll be able to activate this anytime he wants to spend an action on it. So he should be able to get plenty of cards into his hand and keep his allies with plenty of fate. We shall see how things go. What else does he have in his deck, you might be wondering? Well, let's take a look at this. Oh, this is going to be another surprise one. I don't think we've introduced you guys to this one yet. Are you ready? Here we go. Bam. He also has holy beads. So it is going to cost 3 fate to put this into play. If he gathers fate on this, it's going to cost 2. Or if he gathers fate, he would get 2 white fate. But it has a use power again. So this will be able to be used once around. When this hero is healed, they gain a fate. Oh my gosh. This is broken. This character is so broken. I'm going to have to undo everything. I swear. Every time I see this character, I think he is way too powerful. I think he's broken the game already. I really think that. But we're going to try it out and see how he does. Who knows? So so he's going to play this out in front of himself or on one of his friends, one of his allies out there. And every time he heals them, again, he can go all the way back to just his little base power, right? His little base power. Deal 1 damage to an enemy, and another hero can heal a point of a life point. So he could use just his default power for this to energize his holy beads. If the holy beads are in front of another character, he heals them. And think about this. If you got the holy beads and... Where's his other card? Bandages. Every time he heals someone, they could get an extra healing and they could get a fate. Oh, yeah, he's definitely broken the game. I just know it. So, yeah, bandages, really good. Holy beans seem really good. I mean, every card in the game so far costs between 1 and 3 fate to bring in. So, and when you gather fate, you get between 1 and 3 fate. So this is an expensive card. It does cost 3 fate. Doesn't mean there won't be 4 fate cost cards eventually, or if I have to change this card because it's broken. But when the hero is healed, they're going to gain a fate. So you can literally, and of course, yeah, it just seems really good. Really good combos that I meant to design things where you get these combinations, but as I'm creating the powers and thinking about the best way to use them and blah, 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 I'm not really putting into mind how is this card going to work with other cards. But after I'm done and I created his character, then I looked at the cards and I was like, oh, you know what? This card works really well with these cards, and this card works really good with these cards. And you get these really cool synergies that I think should be interesting. I'm going to show you another card, a couple more cards here for Grayrock here. So this is a yellow card, as you can see. It costs 1 yellow. It's a spell, so it's a one-time use power. You could obviously turn this in to gather 3 yellow fate off of it if you wanted to. It has a ability, have a hero draw 3 cards, and light also removes the daze condition from another player. So one thing we haven't really delved into very much, and I think I will spend just a few minutes talking about in this episode so that it makes more sense when we talk about the other characters. We talked about this previously where each color fate has an opposite against them, and each of them work against one another. So white works against black, black works against white, green works against red, red works against green, and blue works against yellow, yellow works against blue. All right? So you can see, for example, black, they're special, and each one of these different colors of fate has their own special ability that only they have. There's a lot of abilities that others can use, like, blinded and, other guard and different abilities that anyone can use, but there's some special abilities that only certain classes or certain color fates have. So black, their special is to poison. That's what they can do that nobody else can do. They can poison. And basically when they poison somebody, every time that character that's poisoned activates, they take a point of damage until they get healed. And you can see, what does white do about this? Well, white is all about healing. So when you heal someone, you cure the poison. So whether they get cured 1 hit point, 5 hit points, whatever, doesn't matter. The poison goes away. So that's how white and black interact. White, on the other hand, what they do is they have the blessings. And blessings give the person that's blessed bonus damage. Well, black counters that with the gloom ability. So if an enemy has a gloom ability, then your blessing doesn't work against that enemy. So you can see how different abilities, each side has a counter for its opposite side. So white characters that can heal to get rid of the poison, and the black characters can gloom to get rid of any blessings. So that's how the white and black interact. Blue and yellow work the same way, and green and red work the same way, where they counteract one another. And we'll get to them when we go over those characters. So it's kind of important when you look at our light spell here. Have a hero draw 3 cards, and light also removes daze condition from any of the players. So blue will be dazing enemies, and yellow can counter that with the light. So think of it as blue is dazing enemies or characters or whoever, and it's kind of, putting them in a fog and they're not really thinking correctly and blah, blah, blah. And the light counteracts that because you're now clearing their mind of bad thoughts. You're able to make them see the light. Think of it that way. So this is a great, it doesn't sound like a great ability until you look deeper into the core mechanics of the game, which I haven't gone into in excruciating details yet because I didn't want to overwhelm people, and again, things are still a work in progress, so things might change here or there, and I didn't want to give out any bad information and then change things on people, blah, blah, blah. So, so the light spell, and he'll have several of these in his character deck where he's able to cast this to prevent characters from being dazed. And dazed is really important because a character that is dazed takes one less action during their round, or if they're an enemy, they completely miss their turn. So you know how we said in the beginning, characters take 2 actions every time they activate. If you're dazed, you only get 1 action. So if at the right time, if Grayrock can get these out at the proper times, he can keep his allies or himself from becoming dazed and taking less actions. Obviously, having only 1 action as opposed to 2 actions severely hampers characters, and obviously hampers the enemies, because if they're dazed, they completely miss their turn. They completely miss their next activation, is what I should say. So it depends on the initiative order and all that. So light, very cool spell, and again, you can get a lot of gathering fate for yellow spells by turning that in if you're not fighting blue enemies, because again, blue enemies will be the only ones that daze people. So if you don't have any blue enemies out and you're not fighting them, then you don't have to worry about being dazed. You can gather a bunch of yellow fate on this card. What else do we have? Yeah, let's look at this one. Determined Strike. So it is a 3-cost yellow ability. You can gather 2 yellow fate if you choose to with this card. Use. So again, you can put this into play in front of you, and then once per round, you can use this ability. Once it's in play, it doesn't cost you anything. To stun an enemy, you just weapon attacked. So if you weapon attack somebody, he could activate this to stun an enemy that he just weapon attacked. So might be super good, super powerful. You get a really tough enemy out there. You don't want to have to worry about him doing a lot of damage to somebody. You could try to stun him, and so he'd miss his next activation. So that is Determined Strike, yellow ability. Again, yellow is about, if you recall from our episode a few episodes ago, we talked about the differences in the different fates, colors. Yellow is all about determination, the mind. That's why they're able to remove dazing, because they're all about things that happened emotionally and mentally as opposed to physically. They're all about the internal workings of creatures and enemies and heroes. So, Determined Strike. Right. So, speaking of weapon attacks, so we haven't actually even really talked about weapon attacks. Let me see. All right. So this card gives you the basics for this, but I should let you know that it has been changed. Excuse me. It has been changed slightly to kind of round it out a little bit better. And can I show you that? Let's see. Boom, 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 boom. Why is that not on? That's not what I wanted. That's not what I wanted either. Let's see if I can find the right one. Right. All right. So here is the. All right. Let me bring this over. So this is the updated text. Obviously, when I created this card, that's one of the reasons I haven't spent a lot of energy and time creating these cards, because if things get changed, then I got to go back and update them and blah, blah, blah. But here's the updated text for the Blessed Warhammer, right? So basically does the same thing except for the bottom sentence is missing. So when you put this in play, it costs 2 white fate, obviously. If you gather fate on it, it only gives you 1 white. It is an item, weapon, and attack action. So you could play this card to put it in to play, and then for your second action, you can activate the special ability on it. The special ability on it is weapon attack. and do 2 plus X plus 2 white damage to one enemy, where X is equal to the number of blessings this weapon has. When you attack with this weapon, you can bless a different hero. We talked about when we did our, just a few minutes ago, our balancing sheet here. So blessing, you can give one of your allies a blessing, give them +1 to their damage. So when you attack with this weapon, so that's the updated information on that. So we might be wondering, well, what the heck is that? Attack and do X plus 2 white damage to one enemy, where X is the number of blessings this weapon has. Well, glad you asked, because let's go to there we go. Blessed weapon. Hey, look at that. It is obviously a skill. It costs 1 fate to activate this skill. You can gather 2 white fate if you choose to on this weapon. It has a special ability. Attach this to weapon to give it 1 blessing. Or search the blessed warhammer. Search your deck for the blessed warhammer and put that card in your hand. If you search your deck, shuffle it. So if you don't get the warhammer, but you do get one of the blessings, you can search, basically spend this card to go find the warhammer. So it gives you, and then there are 3 of these blessed weapon cards that he will have in his deck. Or again, he can cycle through his deck every time he prays twice. Remember that. So even if you have to discard this card, so that you have to find the warhammer, then you get the warhammer into play. Eventually, you'll cast those blessings again and get those blessed weapon card back, so that you can add that to your main weapon attack. So his main weapon attack is going to do X plus 2 damage, so it's either going to do 2, 3, 4, or 5 damage, depending on how many blessings you've got attached to this warhammer. Grayrock is not about damage, as you can see from all of his abilities and cards so far. Probably look at Vorhart coming up next, where he is the fighter of the group. His job is to do, obviously, more damage. So Grayrock doesn't do a lot of damage, but to be honest, 3, 4, 5 damage every time he activates this is pretty good. That's not horrible. It'll obviously take him a few actions to get his warhammer and all of his blessings on it. And once he does, he'll be energized pretty good. If we say, compare him to this swamp spider here. Swamp spider has 5 hit points. So you can see if Grayrock eventually gets his warhammer and the 3 blessings on it, he could kill this swamp spider in 1 shot. So, just to give you an idea of, that's 5 damage is nothing to sneeze at. 2 damage, the way damage is done is 1 is kind of light, 2 to 3 is kind of average, 4 damage is above average, and 5 or more is high damage. So, that's the general gist if you look at total damage. There's ways to get more than that damage out there, which we'll look at with some of the other characters that are coming up. But he's not really, his character and the sets he has chosen to play with are not all about damage. It's all about support, help, blessings, healing, stuff like that. Now, how is he going to help himself? Well, he's got a couple cards that can help him. So he's got this nice war shield here. If you can get this into play, it costs 1 white fate. And you can see it has a use power on it. So once a round, he'll be able to block with the shield and take 1 less damage from an attack. And it also has another use ability on it. If that damage was red, he's going to take 2 less damage from that instead. So obviously having a shield, red again is the melee So most of the melee characters are be using red fate. So obviously having a shield is good against the melee people as opposed to anyone else. So he'll be able to use that once he gets it out in front of him once around to help him protect against some of the other fate. And I don't have another card. I didn't think I made this card. I haven't made this card. But he also has another kind of protective a protective card called Holy Symbol. Holy Symbol has a usability on it, so it does cost 3 white fate to get it out, so it is an expensive card, but it is obviously pretty good. Holy Symbol says when you take damage, he redirects 1 point of that damage to an enemy and makes it white. If the damage is dealt to him is black damage, then he redirects 2 points of it to an enemy and he makes it white damage. So you can see what's happening with the Holy Symbol, right? He's getting damaged and he's redirecting it to one of his enemies because the holy divine power is letting him do this. And then, of course, because it's holy and divine, if it's black damage, he's able to redirect more of it and take less damage. So once he gets the Holy Symbol out, he'll have a little bit more protection for himself by not being with being able to redirect some damage. And, you know, he's not taking damage and he's damaging enemies. That's always a good thing, right? Let's see. Is there any other cards we were going to talk about? I'm looking at my desktop right now to see if there's anything. No, I don't think so. I think that's going to kind of cover it. I'm not going over every single card he has. Just kind of giving you an idea of what the kind of cards are in his deck, what kind of abilities they have, what kind of synergies that you guys might see that I don't see. Obviously, he's designed not to do a lot of damage. It's going to take him a while to ramp up his damage because he's got to get the blessings out to energize the weapon that he has. So it's going to take him several rounds to, it's going to take him at least one action to put the Warhammer in. He's going to take another action to put a blessing out, another action to put another blessing out. I mean, he can use the Warhammer anytime he wants. It just won't do as much damage. But, eventually he'll get to the point where he's doing really, really good damage. It might take a long time. It might take forever. Who knows? I mean, there is 45 cards in his deck, so he's got a lot to go through, and he's got a lot of other things to focus in on because, again, he only gets 2 actions. So if he puts a blessed weapon down and attacks with this weapon, that means he's not putting his holy beads and his bandages and his traveling supplies and his war shield and his prayers and his spiritual auras and his celestial light. So all those obviously are going to take actions and stuff themselves. So it's that's one of the fun parts about, say, a game like Marvel Champions, where you have to decide which cards all of your cards in your deck are great. It's deciding which is the most important cards for you to get now. And of course, that's based upon the situation on the board with all the other cards and the enemies in play, what your allies are doing, when your initiative turn comes up. Everything can kind of come into play. Obviously, if your card is last in the initiative, there's really no sense in casting protection from evil, because there's nobody left to go in the initiative turn. So everything kind of has to mish and mash together so they have what is the most important thing. And sometimes you're going to have to sacrifice. What if you don't get any prayers for a while, right? Are you willing to sacrifice this card so that you can get 2 white fate? so that you can put into play your Warhammer. And if you don't have any faith, is that the best option for you? Or is it to, get rid of your Determined Strike and get rid of 2 yellows so that you can play a light spell and have the yellow resources for that? So lots of different combinations, lots of different ways, things the characters can do. And of course, like I said, it's going to be based upon the situation, what you feel, how you're trying to build your character. Obviously, depending on which whites and yellows sets, you can make him play very differently. Instead of being blessing and healing and bandages and holy means and celestial light and spiritual auras and stuff, he might be doing other things. More attacks or more defenses, having enemies attack him instead of his allies, better armor, better ways to prevent damage from happening to him and his allies. So hopefully that gives you an idea of Grayrock. Let me know what your thoughts are. Let me know what you think of him. What do you think of his powers? What do you think of his abilities? What do you think? Would this be a character you would have to have in the party? You don't find him very interesting? I know there's no one to compare him against right now because he's the only one we've done so far. But we're hoping to get another episode here. We'll talk about our main buddy, Vorhart, the fighter, just to give you a sense of how he does. Now, I will mention, I don't have any of Vorhart's cards put into graphic motion yet. So it's going to probably be a little while before I can get Vorhart and analyze his cards and maybe create 10 or 15 of his cards so you guys can see them without just staring at red and black white and black text. But anyways, what do you think of Grayrock? Seems pretty solid. Seems like he's broken. I don't know. Every time I look at him, I go and make the enemies harder because it's like, damn, he's just going to make things too easy for everyone. So, what do you guys think? I know you guys, again, can compare to other characters. So I hope to get out Vorhart after a little bit, and so you guys can see how the different characters will play and see how they compare to one another. And like I said, there's tons and tons and tons of different characters out there, different, just waiting to be made. So I just have to find the time to do it. But hopefully you guys enjoyed a close look at Grayrock and what he can bring to the group. Let me know what you think. Leave a thumbs up if you enjoyed this, and we'll see you all next time. Thanks for watching, guys.